Hello, Audioholics, this is Logan, and, well, this is it. This is the video that I have been meaning to make almost as long as I've had this channel, quite frankly. This is my top 50 favorite albums of all time. So in order for something to be a great album, or to be one of my favorites, there's obviously a lot of factors at play. I mean, vocals, instrumentation, composition, memorability. But to me, I believe the cornerstone of what makes a truly great album is timelessness. Now, that doesn't mean that albums and bands that aren't timeless aren't necessarily bad. It just means that they're good albums, but the great albums are the ones that can stand the test of time. These are albums that sound just as good now as when they may have come out, whether that be 10, 20, 30, 40 plus years ago. So that is really the quintessential theme of this entire list, if I'm being perfectly honest. So, enough chitter-chatter. Let's do the top 50 albums of all time from 50 to 40 in this video. Let's go. At number 50, we have The Killers, Sam's Town. Now, it was pretty difficult picking between this and Hot Fuss, and all things considered, if this album had never existed, Hot Fuss could probably take its place. But I am so glad that this album does in fact exist. Because while Hot Fuss has this kind of blueprint of the Killers going forward, that being indie rock, indie pop, mixed with 80s synth nostalgia, this is that same essential blueprint, but expanded upon, polished, and perfected. Hot Fuss has one very good epic towards the end. This has two 3-part epics bookending the album. One at the beginning, one at the end. Those, of course, being When We Were Young and The River is Wild, those two epics. Beyond that, however, even in the middle, this album is by no means a slouch, with songs like Uncle Johnny, this really dirty, heavy blues rock song, probably the heaviest thing the Killers have ever done, I would argue, and Bones, the culmination of the quintessential Killers sound, with an amazing synth line, catchy as hell chorus, and overall just amazing musicianship. This album is top shelf material. If you like the 80s pop sound of, you know, bands like Prince, Michael Jackson, etc., and you want some kind of Bruce Springsteen musicianship and lyricism, by all means, give Sam's Town by The Killers a good spin. At number 49, we have Modern Vampires of the City by Vampire Weekend. Now, a lot of you who may know me or quite honestly watch this channel, because I'm sure I've ranted about this band, I must have had to, may be a little bit surprised as to how low it ranks on this list. Let that be a testament to how great all of these albums really are. And to be fair, it actually was higher when we first began. But simply put, this is one of the best lo-fi indie rock albums, period. As Vampire Weekend are one of the best indie rock bands. And with songs like Unbelievers and Hannah Hunt, I think you will find it hard to disagree. Hannah Hunt, in fact, being my introduction to the band. This has a classic, almost Beatles-esque sound to it, but modernized, much like the modern Vampires of the City. Simply put, this is a great album, and especially on vinyl, it really stands out because of its lo-fi sound. Yeah, maybe the newest album might have some higher highs and maybe a little bit more polished, but it does drag a little bit as a result of being on 2 LPs as opposed to this album's 1. So, at number 49, Modern Vampires of the City by Vampire Weekend. At number 48, we have Rising by Rainbow, or Blackmore's Rainbow, if you will. Yes, I own this on 8-track, but you know what? The revival is coming, ladies and gentlemen. 8-track will rise again! Wake up, sheeple! But, on a more serious note, this to me is the perfect marriage of the more proggy, experimental side of Rainbow, as most evidenced in the debut album, and the more mainstream rock sound of future albums with Dio, Joe Lynn Turner, and so on. If you want that more mainstream sound, check out songs like Starstruck and Run from the Wolf. If you want an epic, well, have I got the epic for you. Stargazer. Not only one of the best song on this album, but arguably one of the best epics of all time in the rock and metal community. I mean, that's almost an inarguable fact at this point amongst rock and metal heads. But if you're looking for a good album, check out Rising by Rainbow, especially on 8-track. I mean, come on, Stargazer isn't even cut, but Starstruck is. Whatever. At number 47, we have Tapestry by Carole King. Carole King, for those who don't know, started out as a songwriter and wrote a lot of big songs for some of the biggest artists of the 1960s, 70s, and so on. It took about a decade for her to finally work up the courage to release her first album, however. And, well, my was it worth the wait. Of course, she wrote songs for bands and artists such as The Crystals, Herman's Hermits, Aretha Franklin, James Taylor, the latter two of which would make hits of 2 of the songs originally recorded on this album. Those, of course, being Natural Woman and You've Got a Friend, respectively. Aside from that, however, this has some amazing originals as well. I mean, these are originals, but you know what I mean. Not really hits by other artists, including So Far Away, Too Late, and, of course, the title track, Tapestry. Amazing singer-songwriter pop album that really kind of ushered in the 70s with its kind of lyric-driven, easy-listening sound. I mean, even Tyler, who doesn't usually like a lot of things from that type of sound, I got him hooked on this album because it's so well-written and so well-composed. Give this album a chance. Tapestry by Carole King. At number 46, we have Ted Nugent by Ted Nugent. And in order to properly discuss this album, we first must address the elephant in the room here. Ted Nugent is a very conservative-minded individual who has said and done some very controversial things. That being said, whether you agree with his views or not, I personally do not. Regardless of where you stand politically, this is an anthemic, classic rock masterpiece. As evidenced by songs like Stranglehold, Stormtrooper, Motor City Madhouse, a song which Ted Nugent sang on and would continue to do for a lot of his later career. And Hey Baby. If you want some good, mindless music, and all you really know about Ted Nugent is that he's the cat scratch fever dude, give this album a shot. I don't think you will be disappointed. At number 45, we have The Stranger by Billy Joel. And if you want an album, a singer-songwriter album with some insane variety, look no further than this. Of course, you have the hits, Anthony's song, Moving Out, She's Always a Woman, Only the Good Die Young, Just the Way You Are. And yet, you have some songs that I don't believe are played on the radio nearly enough. For example, the title track, which is, I think, one of the heaviest songs that Billy Joel has ever done, with that dirty blues riff. Good stuff. And then we also have my personal favorite track off of this record, Scenes from an Italian Restaurant. A perfect closer to an already outstanding album. Give this one a chance if you like good music. The Stranger by Billy Joel. At number 44, we have Wake Up by John Legend and The Roots. And some of you who may not be quite as up on the indie pop scene may just know this man for his smash hit All of Me, which came out a couple years back. If you listen to older John Legend, and especially if you listen to this album, All of Me, by comparison, honestly isn't even that good. It's not that well written. It was really just made to be mainstream, which it ultimately was. That being said, this album, where he collaborated with The Roots, is an R&B soul gospel classic, with songs like Hard Times, Compared to What. And if that's not enough star power for you with John Legend and The Roots, how about a little-known rapper called Common? You need this record. Yes, it's a double album, but it's one of the double albums that I think is consistently good from beginning to end. Give this one a shot if you like really well-written, really well-composed soul, R&B, gospel, pop, whatever you want to call it. Wake Up by John Legend and The Roots. At number 43, we have American Idiot by Green Day. Green Day holds a very special place in my heart because one of my earliest music memories was when I was about, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4, and my brother was listening to Brain Stew, and I was listening to it with him, and I instantly fell in love with it. One of the first songs I really fell in love with. I didn't know what it was about. I didn't know when it came out. I probably didn't even know who did it at the time, but I knew for sure I loved it. American Idiot, to me, is the pinnacle of Green Day's genius. I mean, yeah, Green Day has definitely had a very rocky history, for sure. I mean, for every Green Day or Nimrod, we have Uno Dos Tres, Revolution Radio, and Father of All Motherfuckers. But American Idiot is the best, in my opinion. Of course, this is a concept album, and if you want to know more about what the concept actually means, go look it up on YouTube or the internet or somewhere. You'll find an essay. But even if you don't know what the concept is, you already know the songs. We have the title track, Holiday, Wake Me Up When September Ends, St. Jimmy, Boulevard of Broken Dreams, Jesus of Suburbia. I mean, this is so big they made a freaking Broadway musical about it. But all of that out of the way, if we talk about the album at its core, It is a masterpiece, and I cannot recommend American Idiot by Green Day highly enough. At number 42, we have Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. And considering that this is one of the best-selling albums of all time, do you even need me to tell you why this is good? Well, I will anyway, because while you've doubtless heard the hits, Don't Stop, Go Your Own Way, Dreams, The Chain, etc., 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 listening to it in the context of an album is a completely different experience. I mean, it flows together so well and yet has so much variety that you never really get bored of it. Mick Fleetwood, Lindsey Buckingham, Stevie Nicks all stand out in their songwriting, lyricism, vocals, composition, and really this is a cornerstone of any record collection. At number 42, Rumors by Fleetwood Mac. And finally, at number 41, we have Welcome to the Black Parade by My Chemical Romance. This is a fairly recent listen for me. I only ever actually listened to the full album last year, and in fact, it's one of the first videos we ever did on this channel, Tyler and I. But that being said, I am very glad I listened to it because, well, as you can see by its inclusion on the list, it's one of my favorites. Obviously, you have the hits like Welcome to the Black Parade and Teenagers and so on, but beyond that, you have this Queen/Pink Floyd-inspired epic that is just chocked full of variety and expertly done writing and musicianship and composition, and it all comes together to make a modern masterpiece. I think in the same way that people from the 1970s and so will look fondly on albums like Abbey Road, Dark Side of the Moon, Rumors, for example. People in the 2000s, in fact, it's already starting to happen, will cite Welcome to the Black Parade as a generation-defining record. And with good reason, because it's very, very good. So that's all for this video. In the next video, we will be covering albums 40 through 31. What are your favorite albums? Do you agree with my picks? Do you disagree with my picks? Is there something that I forgot to mention that's really interesting about these albums? Let me know down in the comments below. And until next time, I bid you, audio do. Bye, everyone.